What we're doing today is the Dresden fan. And as you know, Dresden's blades are so easy to make. And I wish Wilma had been here because that's one of Wilma's favorite ones. My little helper is going to show you how to take a circle and turn it into a hexagon called a hexie. So that's why you got the little sample circle. We'll do it after I go through the main part and go from. So you start with a 10-inch block or 10 and a half. And to get these, because our samplers are all going to be on point, we're going to fold it in the center and press it, and then fold it in the center again and press it so that you can get where you're going to put your fan out on there. So that's all relatively simple. We got that, right? Okay. So then I have one started. How many's done the Dresden Plate before? Yeah. And this one here, you're going to take, and there's a little thing on there that shows, but you take your little Dresden Plate and you fold it in half, and then you just seam across the top. Real easy. Once you get that done, and you'll see here I string pieced mine because I'm not a wasteful person. So I have an ender, a beginner, and an ender. Yeah. And so you just sew them all together. Then you come back and you click them apart. And the trick to this is to snip that little point off at that folded edge so that when we turn this, we're not going to get that bulk in there. And I have this handy dandy little paintbrush that cleans my machine, but it also helps me push that little point out, but it's not real pointed. Like I use skewers and things like that, but you want to be careful. And two, I did try to press that seam open because it'll just make it lay flatter. And another little trick is when you're pressing, if you have a piece of cardboard that's got a point on it, and then I put a line on mine, and I put it up there, and the cardboard's not too bad. You can press it down when you're ironing, maybe just even a little dash of starch when you're doing that. So you just kind of want to do everything, you know, like make all your little fan blades, and we're going to need 11 of those. I had trouble keeping mine in line, but it really didn't make a difference. On this one it did because I had the pattern. So you sew them in groups of 2, and then you can do 3s or whatever. And they're going to get applique on our block. And you want to do a scant 1/4 of an inch so that they'll fit together. And you may have to, depending on our sewing habits in your sewing machine, you may have to go in and adjust it just a little bit. But there he has it. But you do want to back stitch when you start, and then just kind of back stitch where you stop. But definitely out here. And then on mine, I had done a blanket stitch and went around the applique. Okay? And then everybody know how to make bias binding. Well, okay, let's go to this. No, we don't want to do that yet. Let's see here. Yeah, bias binding for our stems. Everybody's made bias binding, right? Yeah, right. Well, just in case you haven't, I'm going to give you a refresher course. Oh, where's the pen? And my binding was made by an inch. But you take a square or a piece of material, you find your straight edge, and you fold it over with your other straight edge, and there's your perfect bias edge. Then you can either clip that and then come back in and measure your inch, you know, with your rotary cutter and all that, and you make your bias binding. Now, why are we making it biased? Because we want it to bend. But then I didn't bend mine too much, just a little bit. It looked funky if you didn't bend it. But you just take it, make it a scant 1/8 of an inch, real skinny down there. And we have a sample piece or 2 we can send around. So that you've got it prepped there. Then you want to press it so that it lays with that seam in the back. And it's hidden. You don't have to turn it or anything because we fold it with the right side, the wrong sides together. And sometimes it's kind of hard to get that open, so sometimes an emery file or something small like that to put it down in there and get it so you can lay it, so you can iron it. But then that gives you the bend that you need as you put that down in applique. And like this can be raw edge, it can be, well, this wouldn't be, but you can do hand applique or machine applique, and it goes really quick. This I top stitched and did it on there once I got it pinned in. And then I didn't use just one technique, I used several, because then when I went to my leaves, I did raw edge. Okay, I meant to do raw edge on that one. I was going to, but then I thought, let's do them and turn them. So that's where I have plenty of this interfacing. I've got it in 18-inch packets and I got scraps. But you draw your pattern out on there, and then I slit it before I sew it on there so that I can take it and flip it. But you take and sew it around there. You want to reduce your stitch length to be small so that when you turn this, it's not ripping out. And then after I've got it sewn, I come back in and I clip it real close into the seam. And then I come back and I trim it to where it's just barely on the outside of that seam. And this makes a mess on your floor, unless you keep it over your box. And then again, you want to cut at the corner of those leaves so that you take care of the bulk there. And then again, it's just barely carefully as you turn that little leaf, and then again, that's where that paintbrush comes in, or something that's kind of got like a dull end on it. Scissors will take and push it out too much. But anyway, you girls have turned enough pieces, you know how to do that. Everybody follow me? Are we good so far? So, and then if you want to do them raw edge, you can do them raw edge. And then I just come in and did some stitching. I changed threads a lot. That's one thing about some of these baskets we're doing. Getting coordinating thread and all like that.
Invisible thread.
Invisible thread. Will that melt when I iron it? It will not. Invisible thread.
Yeah. YLI then.
What won't?
YLI.
Why?
Yes,
Name brand, YLI. Because you can do any variations to any of these samplers we're showing you. You don't have to follow what we say. We're just giving you a guideline. Then you just put your kick to it and what's that guy say, Emerald? Just kick it up a notch, and bam, there you go. So then you just, applique around here, put that on, and then you do the same thing with the little part that's going to cover up our little open area here. Okay, moving on. Are we ready for the flower? Oh, and I did have a variation of some flowers. I had started out trying to use a little other waffle flower, but it just didn't look right. It just didn't do anything. So then I come back and I put one of my hexies in there. I thought another way to do these when we're doing the hexies is you could do French knots when we get to folding the ends in, something to hold it down. And then that way you wouldn't have to use a button, or because my dad said you had to sew the buttons back on after you send it to the quilters. If you're doing a big quilt, if you're doing something hand done, then you don't need that. But Jefferson, would you like to come over and start with your demo? Okay. He's going to show you how to take a circle to a hexagon. Okay, so you want to...
You fold it off and use it. And then...
You got to talk to him, tell him what you're doing.
And you bring the corners up into the middle. So you do it another time.
You got your pins and you can use.
So then you do it with the top. But before you do that, you have to bring this down.
Just to the center.
To the center. Then you bring the corners in. Then it's done.
I did it too.
He did it. She did hers.
I did mine because you come home.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy. Good
Thank
job.
you, Sam.
Thank you. Yeah. It takes a little practice, but you find your middle, you know, of your circle. And then once you do that, then you just bring the bottom of that up to that center part. And then you just fold, you'll have little sharp edges over here, and you just bring them into that center point. I took and put a dot in the center of my hexie, and then that way you just bring the points all into it. I thought that would be a good spot to take and put a French knot. And I thought of that last night when I couldn't sleep. I was like, oh, that's what I do. And then you just bring the other top part down to that center point, and again, it makes your little sharp points at the top, and then bring them in, and then in, and there you got a hexie. Aren't they fun?